Hi, I'm Kanika, the founder and CEO of MindCog, a company that specializes in getting first-hand inputs from your desired target audience anywhere across the world, helping you take powerful decisions for your business. Today, I welcome you to our series of podcasts on market research. And our first guest with us is Mr. Pawan Kumar. Pawan is an academic leader who comes with a lot of experience in the field of academia and research both. Starting his career in the field of research, he's worked with known brands such as McKinsey, Grail, eValueServe, and moving on to academia, he's been a leader who has worked at the intersection of technology, entrepreneurship, and business. Welcome, Pawan. Thank you so much for giving us your time today. As you know, the topic for today's podcast is marketing research in the digital landscape.
Thanks, Kanika, for having me. It's a very interesting topic I would be excited to be part of.
So, Pawan, to begin with, you've been around, since the advent of social media. You've seen so much change in the field of technology, in how things have changed for businesses thanks to so much of digitalization. What shift have you observed in consumer behavior because of digitalization?
Kanika, I think it has really changed drastically. The changes have been coming for last 2 decades, but for last 5 years, the changes have been phenomenal. And majorly, it's attributed to the advent of digital technologies. In every part of our life, in every part of our business, society, we have been bombarded with digital technologies and, digital information. So it has made consumers much more empowered, much more informed, and much more in control of their choices. So this definitely has an impact on market research because you really have to figure out the right behavior to be able to set the right product for that consumer. So I think these technologies have really, on one side, they have really made data availability much more than what it was 20 years back. But on second way, the cluttering of information has also attributed to a lot of confusion within market research.
Yeah. Are you saying that today consumers also have access to way more choices than it was earlier?
Yes, they have. Of course, they have much more choices in there, but the information sources are also manifold, right? It's an omni-channel kind of marketing which is happening. And you are really receiving the information on your WhatsApp, you are receiving same thing on your OTT platform, you are seeing a hoarding when you are driving to your workplace, you are maybe getting an email in the evening. So it's quite a few channels which are really providing you that information. And for companies, it's a challenge to really know which channel worked and which did not. So in that way, one way is, the advantage is that you can reach the consumer in many which ways, but the disadvantage is that you don't know which channel worked and which didn't work.
Yeah. So it's like a nightmare for marketers.
Actually, it is. Yeah.
So clearly, Pawan, what I'm hearing is that, it's even more important for businesses to really get their hands on consumer insights. Unlike, how it was probably like a decade ago, where you could just have like a hypothesis, oh, I've started a new business, let me put a hoarding here, or let's say very typically, if you're a local business more so, and you have clients locally, you would probably take like a hoarding on like a roundabout or, have like a radio ad. But now that's no longer going to work because those same consumers have access to other players, which could be national or global. So how do you think companies have evolved in terms of, designing new strategies to understand their consumers?
I think we rightly pointed out that the information clutter has really played a big role, not only on the minds of the consumers, but companies also. It's a big challenge. So maybe a couple of years ago, it was to get the information to the consumer and then the decision-making process started. But now it is not only getting the information, but it is also to understand the consumer in a much better way. So we were a choice-driven kind of, a product-driven market. Then we moved to customization, where companies started to maybe tweak their product into 5 versions to sort of customize it for 5 segments. And moving further now, actually, we are at a personalization kind of stage where consumers are demanding that, demanding the control of customization in their own hands. They don't really want to, you to decide what should I consume, but they want themselves to really be, creating their own products. So the co-creation of products, as we read the phenomena, as is the recent change which has happened in the field.
I hear you. And but in your experience, we see big companies doing a lot of research, and they take even the smallest of decision when it comes to, let's say, a logo or even the color of their packaging to be such that, that gets picked most on the shelf, or like, that's like the most appealing for their category. But in general, do you think companies have accepted and approved, and have they really started using market research to understand their consumers better?
There is no choice. I don't think it's a choice for a company to really do consumer research or not do consumer research. Because if the customers are becoming much more demanding and much more in control, you cannot not know them, right? So you have to be understanding their behavior, you have to be understanding their choices, understanding their needs, and then be creating products. So it's not a top-down approach anymore. So another thing which I sort of see, which is changing more from perspective of companies and marketing plan of the companies, is that maybe few decades ago, it was more of segmenting your customers into certain buckets and sort of catering to those segments in a little different way. But now we are actually moving from segments to attribute behavior-driven, consumers. Say, I would not say my product is for men or women, or say young or old, but it's actually, I would be reading the behavior of my customers through their digital footprint and using that as a proxy to decide which product would fit their needs best. So it's really no choice for companies to not know consumers, and it makes much more sense to really track these behaviors, infer them, and decide your product portfolio accordingly. Saves you much more on your long-term business cost.
No, I absolutely agree. And even in my own experience, right, when I meet some even early stage entrepreneurs, they very well understand or are aware of, the importance of understanding their consumers and, then take decisions. But I still find that not all of them are doing it. So what do you think, or like what's your experience as to what are the challenges that entrepreneurs or marketers face when it comes to really getting insights on their consumers? Because I still don't see all of them doing it.
I think it's a little bit of overconfidence on our own assumptions. So a lot of entrepreneurs, when they conceptualize an idea, it starts with a belief that this is what is needed in the market. And probably they stick to that belief quite long, and they really don't feel like going to the consumer and validating that belief. So, but it really doesn't make sense, because you might have a very different context of feeling a need which might not be true on the field. So, I think entrepreneurs should definitely be doing market research, consumer behavior research at the very outset of their idea, and really know whether the assumptions hold true or they don't hold true. And I think it is also quite accepted strategy in the startup world is to fail fast and to move on. So which means that you really test out a lot of ideas and see where you can pivot and where you can really see product market fit for your products.
Yeah, you actually brought up the right thing, and I was going to bring this question up later, which is that how successful do you think is a hit and trial strategy, which is what a lot of people used to do earlier, and some people still continue to do that. And I said people, I mean businesses.
In startups, I think that's the only way. You really would not know which product is the best or the perfect for the segment. But I think that's the only way where you can really create a lot of iterations and decide which are acceptable, which are not acceptable for your consumers. And I think having digital technologies makes it much more easier to pilot a lot of concepts, and it's not really as heavy on cost as it used to be maybe 10, 15 years ago. So it's a right way of actually building your product. You create a prototype and really go to the consumer, validate it, come back, do it again, and then go back. So I think hit and trial is definitely a way out to really do it. But of course, it has to be backed by a very close data-driven decision making. You should not be leaving behind data. The whole purpose of doing a pilot is to collect right data points and use them to improve your decision making for your future features of the product.
Absolutely. In fact, we work with a lot of early stage entrepreneurs who have some solution already, and they now want to build like an actual tech platform or like an app. And then they come to us to do research, not because they want validation, but because they want to understand what features to build for first.
Right. So I think market research helps at all stages of your product. Maybe at the initial, it's about validating your idea, validating the need of the consumer. But you can definitely keep deploying the research methods to understand various facets of your business as it evolves. So you could be testing which features are, to prioritize the features of the product. You could be saying the usage patterns of your product. You could be using it for pricing sensitivity of the consumers. You could be using it to understand the challenges people face while using your consuming your service.
So, very right, Pawan. In fact, we have entrepreneurs coming to us at different stages. Some come actually at just a product validation, right? They just want like a proof of concept. So, I have a hypothesis in my mind. Is it going to work or not? And they're smart enough to understand that, I would rather get feedback than just work on my hypothesis. Sometimes I come for product feature prioritization. Some come for entering a new market. Could you, for our listeners in this podcast, tell us about what are the different, use cases, so to speak, where an entrepreneur at any stage of their journey can utilize market research to take the right decision?
Being able to understand your consumer better is not a one-time phenomenon. It has to be a journey. Till you are in business, you have to be, observing and understanding your consumer to really stay update on what they are wanting and what they are needing. So, and it's across your product life cycle. It starts from the, day you sort of conceptualize your idea. It's a validation of the need of the consumer, the kind of choices it already has to really fulfill that need. And then it, of course, goes step by step as you keep building your product. It would help you in understanding which features are needed, to prioritize the sequence of launch of your features, to understand the price elasticity of consumers with respect to different features. So, for example, Spotify recently introduced, a paid version. It made certain features paid for free consumers. So it would have been definitely backed by a consumer research. It's not a decision taken in a board meeting. So in that way, I think it's across the board, wherever you are starting from your launch of your product till you are, in the journey, it's needed. Would Zomato not need consumer research today? It's a very big company and quite old company now. Absolutely, they would need to understand where they are headed 5 years from now. So I think it's across the business journey where you could deploy consumer research to know what coming and what you should be doing for your future.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned something about Spotify and them taking a decision to make some features paid for some consumers. And that made me think of another question, which I think is often overlooked by businesses or entrepreneurs. A very common tendency is to think that everyone is my customer. And how they say very popularly, if you think everyone is your customer, then no one is your customer. So could you share with us, why is it so important for a business to really clearly define who their ideal client profile is? Like, what's the profile of the ideal customer?
I think there are a couple of reasons for you to really zero in on the customer segment you want to focus on. First, of course, you said if you really spread across all segments, you really would not appeal to anyone. So people would not know who you stand for. So people definitely value the exclusivity of service of the product, which is catering to their needs, to their segment. So you lose out on brand building there. Second, I think cost-wise, startups are fund-starved, right? They won't have enough funds. So you won't like to spread across a very huge market and then maybe, have very lower returns. So you would maybe like to go do a high-intensity campaign on a segment of customers which are more likely to be buying your product or service. So in that way, it's again very relevant for you to really identify the customers. And third, I think at the initial stages, if you are focused on right customers, the feedback which you get would be very relevant to you. Otherwise, you might get misguided with feedback from a lot of segments which are actually not your consumers. So it makes sense for you to really identify one or two segments which you think are your correct TG and then go after them. Of course, later on, maybe consumer research can also help you identify a few more when you are really at a stage of scale up.
So, Pawan, we've talked about why it's so crucial now more than ever to do consumer research, to understand your market. and then even defining who your ideal target audience is. Let's switch gears a little bit. Could you talk to the audience about qualitative versus quantitative research? What do they actually mean, and what is the purpose of each of them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they are pretty much the pillars of market research, in every which way. So quantitative is actually to answer what about a problem, right? So it's just to figure out what exists, a little bit of descriptive analytics around a situation, around a behavior, around a segment. So quantitative as a method would mean survey method, say sending a survey link to somebody and asking to fill in, or maybe downloading a data from an app, behavior or usage data from an app and analyzing it. So it's basically you're really, doing it at a scale, and asking the same common thing in a same template to a couple of thousands of people. While qualitative is a lot more personalized and involved. So qualitative actually answers the why of the problem, right? So say a consumer would say, I dislike a brand, then but it won't reveal in quantitative that why it is so, what are the reasons. But qualitative can help you answer to that why of the problem. So qualitative would mean maybe having a one-on-one conversation or an interview with couple of consumers, maybe having a focus group discussion, maybe doing an observation of say buying behavior or a shopping behavior in a retail store. So it could be any of these methods, but herein you are talking to less number of people, but you are being much more involved, and the consumer is being much more involved in the whole process. So these both have a different purpose in research, but they are equally important depending on the context of your problem, the question which you are seeking answer for. I think you could choose either of these methods.
Understood. So qualitative is more in depth, and quantitative is more to get more wider, cast a more wider net, like to get more validation in terms of numbers.
Yeah. So quantitative is to get a dipstick about a phenomena. Say, what's your sort of a liking about a product or about a feature, or your ranking of certain brands in a sequence. So it could be things which can maybe your top of mind, capturing your top of mind about a product or a brand or a behavior. While qualitative is really understanding why why do you think what you have just said? So why do you like a brand? Why do you dislike a brand? Which features trouble you? Which features you really enjoy? What have been your sort of inherent challenges in using a product? What are your pain points in using a detergent, for example? What are your likings going to what do you mean by when you go to a PVR to watch a movie? So all these things are really not revealed in a survey where you're a little bit more on a automated answering zone, but qualitative can definitely get you answers to all of these questions.
Absolutely. Pawan, you are currently managing a technology leaders program. So, I think this question is going to be apt for you. What is the role of AI in predictive analytics in the field of research? How can we leverage them, to maybe accelerate our research?
I think AI is a very, very big phenomenon which is happening in the world today, and it's probably as big as the evolution of internet in the world, and it has really impacted everything which we are doing as a society, as a business, as a mankind in that thing. And consumer research is definitely not untouched from the contours of the AI technologies. And what probably the most frequent and most popular impact of AI has been, it has made the data collection and the data analysis much more easier. So earlier what would take months to, go to the field and collect data, maybe AI can really help you put that together in maybe minutes and maybe few hours, right? And it can also generate reports analyzing that data and doing the data cleaning. So all that is really a very, very evident impact of AI. But I think more than that, the deeper impact of AI is that it allows you to really make your research customized, right? Based on the response of a consumer, you could put next question, right? So AI allows you to have that kind of control over your discussion. Earlier, if you would float a survey, it would be a static survey with 20 questions for everyone. But now your survey could really be very dynamic, and it would depend on the response of the first question, that which question would be subsequently served to the respondent. So in that way, AI is really changing the entire game of thing. AI clubbed with IoT devices is another big thing which is happening now. IoT devices allow you to capture data, real time. So whether it is health data or it is finance data or it is automobile data or environment data. So these devices are really capturing everything, automatically 24/7 and feeding into a system, and that system is also responding based on that data. So AI allows you to have all that kind of control, and with a much more, a much less resource deployment, so it has really allowed the scale and speed to the market research, overall.
I absolutely agree. I'm going to switch gears again. And maybe like this focus, the focus of this segment or this question is more for entrepreneurs who feel that they want to do market research themselves. Like, what avenues do entrepreneurs have to conduct market research for themselves?
I think they can do a couple of things. It's, there are a lot of technologies, a lot of tools which are available, which they can use to reach out to their consumers, do quick surveys, do some meetings, interactions, maybe collect some data, behavioral data on their app. So definitely they can do a lot of things using these tools and technologies. But then it also really is about the art of doing market research. It's not essentially everyone's cup of tea. So I think I would also propose that maybe they engage with a person who has really a deep experience, maybe a company or a individual who has really mastered the art of market research, talking to consumers in a more professional way. Though it looks simple, but it's quite a deep exercise to design the market research and then execute it. A thing as simple as designing a question, it looks very trivial, but the way you design your question, the way you write your question really determines the response that you will get from the consumer. So I think engaging market research companies to help you design right consumer research for you is definitely a recommended strategy for startups, because you can't go wrong. You have very limited time to make it right. So in that way, it's always best to bet on an expert than doing hit and trial at a stage which is extremely crucial for your business, and future.
So, Pawan, we've talked a lot about, importance of market research for entrepreneurs. There's a very important use case and very important audience for this, which is also marketers. And, like you touched in the very beginning that, there has been, there are a multitude of channels today, but that is also becoming like a nightmare for marketers. So could you tell us a little bit more about the importance of now market research for marketers?
I think marketing also has become quite technology driven over a period of last couple of years, and though you have a lot of tools which allow you to do marketing at scale and at speed, but then it also means that you can really go wrong, and you can go wrong in a big way if you're really not targeting your interventions in a right way. So marketers definitely need a very correct understanding of consumers, when they are really pushing out information, offers, product features. So that really makes it very important for them. Starting with, say, a digital marketing campaign, it, from the very first step of identifying your TG, defining the TG in terms of features on social media platforms, it is not really, it needs a little bit of expertise and common sense to really not make mistakes which maybe were made previously by other organizations. So if you take inputs around these features from a veteran in the field, it can really make the much more impact on your ROI of your marketing investment. And then on the later stages where you're building engagement, where you're nurturing the leads in your database, again, A/B testing kind of methods can make it really effective for you to deploy your resources in a right way. So across the customer journey, starting from the, so when your customer enters your lead database till your, it becomes a loyal customer and a repeat customer for you, you have a couple of places where you can understand the behavior and make marketing much more effective, targeted, and, ROI driven.
Yeah. So there's not a time to do like spray and pray, as they call it, right? It has to be very focused, for which you need to understand who your teacher is, where they are sitting, what their behaviors are, and then accordingly plan your marketing.
Absolutely, because it costs money to do to all these things. So I'm sure as a startup, you won't want to really do a lot of experiments and lose out on your scarce capital in terms of time and money. So if you really get focused, correct understanding of your consumer, you can get many fold returns on your marketing investments compared to where you're really hitting in the dark.
Yeah. Pawan, we've talked so much, about these concepts now. Could you share like some examples of companies which we all can relate with, who have leveraged market research or consumer inputs in some way to grow their business, whether it's for marketing or, purely for pushing revenues?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are a couple of big things which have happened in last couple of years. The most prominent which comes to my mind is stock investing, for example. Now, this category is quite old. I mean, for last 30 years after liberalization, I mean, we have been hearing about share market. A lot of people invest. They have certain kind of interest. But the technology behind, the way we were investing was not really, it has not changed much till maybe a couple of years back. So companies like Zerodha, Grow, they really understood the pain points of people when they were investing, over dependence on agents in between, then a lot of lack of awareness and competence to use features on a investment app. So they really understood it well with the consumer research and tapped it to create a product which is a very, very user friendly, simple to use for as important use case as financial investments. And they definitely have made it extremely big in very, very short span of time. Similarly, companies like Swiggy, Zomato, they all tap into the sentiments of consumers, real time, whether it is a IPL match which is happening or it's a FIFA World Cup or maybe a festival which is happening. So they understand the behavior real time in terms of what they are ordering, who is ordering, what is selling, what price is selling, which offer is working. And they customize their, products not even in days, but in hours. It's that high turnaround time of their marketing efforts. So I think these things really make it make a huge impact on the way your sort of marketing works and your business grows. So there are maybe another couple of areas. For example, SaaS as a segment has also leveraged this to large extent, right? Now, SaaS is essentially is a tool which allows you to automate your processes in a business function and make it much more efficient and productive for you. So here also consumer research has a very, very extreme role to play, because to understand the user behavior, the use cases of a SaaS product, that's where it starts. And then you start building your product. And building a SaaS product is an extremely heavy, high capital investment decision. So if you go wrong in understanding the consumer at the outset, maybe you would really make a huge loss, maybe an irreversible loss for your startup. So these are some of examples and areas where consumer research has really played a phenomenal role in helping entrepreneurs make right choices and benefit from the consumer research.
I absolutely agree. And I know if we continue to speak, because we're both fan of this field and we both sort of, have been connected to this field for a long time, we can go on forever. So I think before we conclude today, what is like an advice that you could give to businesses in terms of what kind of strategies can they leverage, or what should be their approach towards leveraging market research for growing their businesses?
I think, so it's quite wide topic, and it's really, for me, it's as, important as my day-to-day work. So it's quite engaging. I mean, at this sort of juncture where technology is really playing a very, very big role in every business function, I think one suggestion I would have is to really make technology as a very, very important ingredient of, every sort of consumer study which you do, right? Leveraging technology really can make your task much more easier, help you scale and do it at a high speed. Secondly, since for startups, time and resources are the key, so it's always better to engage an expert for design and execution of your thing, because you eventually would lose out very crucial time, and actually you may get misguided if your really research goes wrong. You might really invest a lot of other things based on the findings of your research. So it's always advisable to engage a person who has really mastered the field and leverage the expertise. And third, I think market research is crucial at each stage. Don't think that you have
It's never
done it at the beginning and now it's over. But I think it can help you at each stage of your business, each stage of your product, as it grows and understands. So keeping a tab on your consumer would be the key of your survival and growth in this market, which is extremely competitive, extremely dynamic, and extremely, tech driven.
Thank you so much, Pawan. Those were real pearls of wisdom. And I couldn't agree more. And my purpose of inviting you here was that, I wanted my audience to hear from an academic leader. And you're based on your experience, not just from a very theoretical perspective, because we associate academia with theory, but also you've been a researcher yourself. And you're today leading a technology leaders program. So you are actually at the helm of something where you have a very good understanding of what is really working in the market. And this takes me back to a conversation that we were having, at the very beginning of the podcast, when you mentioned that a pure MBA is just not enough. So everything is now technology plus management, technology plus problem solving. And I think that's true for all businesses today, that you just cannot survive without either of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really a pleasure to be talking to you, and it's quite an interesting topic and quite relevant for us to understand, not only in academics, but of course in business, right? It can add a lot of value. It can help you move faster and really help you make right decisions, data-driven decisions. So since we have a lot of choices, courtesy technology, which is surrounding us, I think let's leverage and help, entrepreneurs really grow fast and at a faster pace. So pleasure speaking to you. It was really a great interaction, and I really learned quite a lot about market research myself on this podcast.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast today. I'm positive that this podcast answered some of your most burning questions about market research. For more such content, please follow us on our social media channels, the links of which are in the description below. And don't forget to share your feedback and queries in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer them and create content based on what you want to hear. Signing off is your host, Kanika, the founder and CEO of MindCog, your market research partner.